to the Dwarven Tavern. I am your host, Lyric, and today we are doing another review. This time we're checking out the Masters and Minions book done by Jetpack 7 Publishing. This is a book that is described as a 5th edition supplemental, basically list of characters that you can put in your game for your players to go up against. This means that you can basically put this in any type of RPG that is also 5th edition compatible and use it in case you're having a brain fart and don't know what type of villain or minion or monster to make your characters fight. So let's dive into it, shall we? First off, this is a Kickstarter. Behold all of the Kickstarter donations that were given to them, or backers is the word. There's a lot. A lot of people wanted this book to come out, and it is a rightful feeling because this book is gorgeous. So the foreword describes that there is no good story without a villain. Or no good story without a good villain, and that's technically not true because there are plenty of good stories without them, but this plays on the mindset that a good villain can make a good story. So how to use this book is that I will read directly from it. It says, game balance is a myth. The game master's job is not to create an encounter that quote unquote flows by the numbers and ends in XP. If that was the job, just describe the encounter and hand the PC some XP. It's the same thing. Masters and their minions wish to survive as much as your PCs. There are suggestions within to help a game master bring them into conflict with an adventuring party. The game master's role during a fight is to expend the PC's resources. Resources like equipment, hit points, and spells. The rogue is down to one last vial of acid. The fighter has less than 5 hit points left. The high-level wizard is looking at her sheet and choosing from the 2 second-level spells she has left. The cleric is holding on to one last healing spell, just in case it's all over in the next round. Which, going off the description, probably is. These encounters should feel tight, but not repetitive. That being said, this is not a book of how to beat PCs either, but it is meant to inspire and offer new ways to challenge them. By doing so, the goal will be to help give players a high sense of accomplishment. And I can get behind a book that does that, because what good is a game if you don't enjoy it? The point of D&D is to immerse yourself in a fantasy world that can give you a sense of accomplishment and help bond with the other players and DM, not pit each other against one another and leave the game night angry and hateful. Hopefully this book will help with that. So going with the first character that this one gives, it's Paetius, the Dryad. And again, the artwork is freaking gorgeous. This company is just a fantastic group of artists that do their thing, and it is an amazing thing. So each one of the monsters or characters given, they have different sections in their character sheet basically to describe who they are, where they come from, and what type of encounter they will produce. They give lore, suggested PC levels, encounter, initial attitude, encounter conditions, tactics, scaling, and treasure. And then on the next page, it actually lays out a definitive kind of character sheet for you so that you know all of their game statistics in order to properly include them in the game without just giving them personality without knowing how to roll the dice. So, for example, Paetius, I'm just going to pronounce her name that way. It's probably wrong, but c'est la vie. Paetius' suggested PC levels are 1st through 3rd level. The lore is Fossmoor is an old forest that few enter. It stands just a few miles from the near city of Merrick, but the city's inhabitants know better than to enter the woods. Fables, legends, and stories abound of a mystical forest that comes to life when the forest is threatened. But that doesn't stop opportunists from taking more than their fair share of the verdant Fossmoor. Just a few years ago, a lowly acolyte of the White Tower in Merrick ventured to the magical spot within the forest, reading from an ancient book beyond her skills. Oh, dumb. She recites a ritual and cuts 5 small branches from a specific tree named in the tome. The acolyte grabs the branches and rushed from the forest. The tree, incapable of doing anything in the face of such magic, died shortly after. Doesn't that just smell of chaotic energy? And that was when the trouble started. Who'd have guessed it? No one knows what the acolyte wanted the branches for. She was murdered shortly after in the streets of Merrick, the book and branches long gone. But the spirit of Fossmore would not ignore what had happened. She birthed 5 dryads that day, one for each missing branch. The first she named Patius and gave her the most strength. The others became her children and servants in her quest to destroy Merrick. Every movement near the edge of the Fossmore became dangerous for the people of Merrick. A simple tradesman passing by, or a lumberer cutting down trees, or a tree on the forest edge met with the same fate. A faceless attacker maiming, but not killing, the assailant. Rumors spread of the vicious brigands who would soon make demands of the city. Other people spoke of spirits of the dead haunting the city for its greed and debauched ways. Every possible theory turned into a superstitious rumor, and the fear grew. Despite these warnings, some people are still foolish enough to enter the Fossmore. Especially children and teenagers set on daring one another to do something stupid. Recently, a child went into the woods and never returned. What happened to the period at the end of that? I mean, come on. Grammar's not that hard. So that is the story behind Patius the Dryad. She is one of 5. And then it goes into the encounter of, what happens when you actually meet her. The Game Master is welcome to include some dire animal fights before reaching the Dryad. However, the tactics below may be more than enough for PCs to feel challenged, especially since they're first up to 3rd level characters. So her initial attitude is antagonistic, hostile, and suspicious, as a forest dweller would be when non-forest dwellers come into the forest dweller's forest. The tactics include, for example, Patius keeps her distance from PCs that have them guessing where she will appear. She uses her tree stride ability once in combat. If a PC dies, I'm just skipping the longer chapter, Patius animates it and immediately uses her death seed ability. Ooh! She's scary. So yeah, and then Treasure, we'll skip scaling. Treasure, a magical charm pendant, is among the personal effects from people Patius has killed. Inside is a rough painting of a young woman who appears to have recently been married. The charm provides protection against evil and good. Wow, both. Once a day, lasting for 10 minutes. But it is otherwise simply a piece of jewelry. The owner is dead, but the family may want the charm back, and that could spur on a new quest. So, moving on, Patius is a medium fae of neutral evil, and she's got bark skin, pretty average stats, things like perception and stealth, and, just odds and ends of a well-rounded character. And again, it's given a pretty detailed list of things that you can include in your game on how to attack your players. And then it moves on to the next one. And it repeats this with each character, each villain that is provided to you, while increasing the level of combat level, I guess, the suggested PC level. For example, we'll just skip ahead a little bit and go to Grail the Tinkerer. She is a 6th to 9th level character level of which she should be put up against. And that is also the cover of the book. It's pretty neat. Each one of these characters has a whole bunch of lore, so you could go through this book making these individual counters as your characters level up, or you could base your entire story around these characters, which I feel would give a more solidified feeling of accomplishment. Because if you base the game off of, let's say, Grisekek, the Orc Queen, who's 8th to 11th suggested PC encounter level. Grisekek is very skilled in battle, to say the least. And she's aggressive and unkind and suspicious. And Grisekek, being the Orc Queen, unlike her contemporaries, reading directly from the book, who killed one another to sit upon the Orc throne, Grisekek earned her way up, serving as a soldier, then captain, and finally a field marshal before taking the mantle of queen upon her cousin's death. All the way up to the top, she led She lead by example, so that's a typo. Defying her kin's brutish manners of war. Instead, she leads through intelligent planning and with thoughtful tactics. So she is an unusual orc that not only does she hear voices in her head, as described in the earlier comments, she's intelligent and a tactician, it seems, and does her best to keep her throne. And her being 8th to 11th level, it would be a great goal for characters to strive for in the ultimate battle. For example, they may be fighting orcs all the way up to this point, while delving in some of the other villains that could be in this book in that story. And then once they get to Skrisekek, the queen, that is the climax of the story, and therefore upon either dying at her grizzled claw or winning against the tooth and nail that she provides, that would complete the scenario and would give a wholehearted, well-rounded meaning to the game itself. Side note, it actually has additional notes for certain characters that say, like for example, Krisekek, additional orc tactics are provided on page 87. So we're going to take a glance into the future where it has minion tactics. And it says 87, orc. Minions of powerful spellcasters, orcs, kings, queens, and lords. So the minion tactics are, we'll get more into this later, but this is if you're, she's a queen, so obviously she's got minions. If your villain has minions, then it actually provides tactics that you can use to greater expand on the feeling, the lesson thereof. And this goes all the way up to level 20 with character level adjustment. So we're gonna take a glance at Baleg, the Ravaged Worm. Again, artwork is phenomenal. I mean, it earns an axe just on the artwork alone, because even if I weren't an artist, I would appreciate this glorious spread. So, Baleg is a Ravaged Worm. His initial attitude is simply rage. Baleg's story begins in any campaign. GMs are encouraged to write down rumors of twisted, malevolent half-dragon into their campaigns long before the PCs even encounter Baleg. Baleg, I don't know. When they do, it should already have encountered entire regions of the world under its thumb. Bum, bum, bum. Baleg easily has the power to control the town or small city, even a shire. The stories leading up to its control are up to the GMs to devise. But just looking at Baleg should be enough to convince players the average footman is no match against the flying dragon that is only visible half of the time. So, he's a spook. He's a spooky spook. And, he redefines evil as it is described. And this character seems to have all sorts of individual minions and evil things lurking about. This is a 13th to 16th level villain. It is what it's supposed to go up against the type of players that you have. So that's a pretty kind of final boss feeling. It's a character that you don't want to send newbies up against. Like by the time they get this far into the book, they need to have at least a few game nights under their belts, because like this guy has 21 for his strength, 12 for dexterity. He's a dragon. I figured it would be higher than that. A constitution of 20, intelligence of 18. Oh, he's a smart boy. Wisdom of 15 and a charisma of 19. You're believing anything that this guy says to you. Like, he's got all sorts of abilities. For example, he's got skills of arcana, perception, and stealth, all very high. Damage resistance including acid, cold, fire, lightning, thunder, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical attacks. He's got immunities to necrotic and poison damage. He has immunities of charmed, exhaustion, frighten, paralyze, and poison conditions. He has blind sight of 60 feet, dark sight of 120 feet, passive perception of 22. And he speaks only in common and draconic, because who's got the time? So, this dude is some serious bad mojo. And by the time that they get this far into the book, your characters need to have leveled up quite a lot. Something else that they include is that when they've got creatures such as Baleg, they sometimes include sidebars of information where their domain is. So for Baleg's lair, that's what this is. It says Baleg's lair is claustrophobic and cramped. The route to Baleg's final lair is constrained, while the final resting place is just big enough for Baleg to rest in. Because he likes it. He's a dragon. He likes a tight little cozy spot to lay in. Lair actions. On initiative count 20, losing initiative ties, Baleg takes a lair action to cause one of the following effects. Baleg can't use the same effect 2 rounds in a row. But that doesn't mean he can't stop using the effects. He can rise up skeletons and zombies. He can rise 4 wights. He can do a wall of moaning, thrashing corpses. He also has regional effects. This includes thick clouds that shroud the area with 1 mile of the lair. Storms are common, and even during the day, the ambient light is dim at best. You ain't seeing anything when Baleg is in town. Scavengers and carrion birds are common and aggressive toward PCs within 5 miles because Baleg probably eats everything. Creatures who sleep during the long rest with 1 mile of the lair must exceed a DC 10 wisdom saving throw or be affected with the long-term madness. Ugh. And then if Baleg dies, which we all know is a fat chance, conditions of the area surrounding the lair return to normal over the course of 1d10 days. Which 1 to 10 days is it's still accurate, but goddamn, you have to kill him in order to make the fog or storms or carrion birds go away. And even then, it's going to take a little while. Then after Baleg, it goes all the way up to the suggested PC levels of 18th through 20th level with Nezaroth the Undying. Who is that? Let's find out. Nezaroth is a different kind of villain. His life began as an adventure. In fact, he amassed a cadre, I don't know how to pronounce words, of friends and small fortunes. Any problem he wanted to solve could be done with a simple thought. His magical power was so great, he even established a small town, a utopia from suffering, so long as the inhabitants helped him gather books and knowledge. And for years, the town prospered, because it would in that scenario. As time passed, Nezaroth's library grew to encompass most of the town. Each time people brought him books, he enlisted carpenters to build more shelves and buildings. The libraries became villages unto themselves, and the town grew beyond his managing. He couldn't keep up with who was coming or going, because again, it would in that scenario. Eventually, the stress grew, and Nezaroth realized he would never live long enough to read all the information he had gathered, which is the hardest plight of someone who wants to collect knowledge. Whatever good he wished to do for humanity would take several lifetimes to accomplish. In his despondency, he overreacted and teleported all of the books into a nearby mine and shut himself off from the world. The town was baffled. No one knew where Nezaroth went in their tiny utopia fractured without his guidance. People turned on one another, and eventually, once great community became a ghost town. Over the years, goblins, orcs, and all manner of beasts would make it their home, but never for too long. Then it goes on to describe the fact that Nezaroth, in his reclusive behavior, developed what he called molts, which were 9 identical creations of himself. They were like him in both personality and wit, but unfortunately they only lasted 10 years at a time. And he could never figure out why, but for some reason, he could only create 9 at a time. And whenever one would die, he would simply just create another. And then after a while, he created these molts to be sent out to other places. For example, one of his bolts appearing as Nezaroth came before the Council of Wizards, offering aid in exchange for magical knowledge. Another molt appeared before the king, offering counsel in exchange for magic. Everywhere around the world, molts of Nezaroth appeared, trading guidance for help for access to their libraries. For decades, Nezaroth dispatched his molts to every corner of the globe searching for knowledge. And with his desire to find magic and read magic and transcribe magic into a language for everyone else to understand, he unknowingly destroyed this magic. Every time one of his molts transcribed a scroll or studied a book, the language of that spell was replaced by a quote-unquote mastered version of the spell in Nazaroth's unique language. As molts exited the libraries with scrolls, they took with them the last remaining language for communing with the plane of magic. Without intending to, Nazaroth became the gatekeeper of nearly every spell in existence. Now, residue from faraway mountain points to the cause of the magic's decline, but it can only be felt by the most powerful wizards and sorcerers. It is not clear what is the cause of the magic fade, but it is clearly must be stopped before it is too late and all magic is gone for good. So, that being said, it's very understandable why this is a 18th to 20th level suggested PC encounter. This dude is extremely powerful, and he's got 9 identical twin brothers, basically, who know all the exact same spells that he does. Or at least they all have their individual spells that are just crazy powerful, and he is the gatekeeper thereof. So, his initial attitude is crackling with power. There is another typo. I find that the more I read this, the more typos I find. And I think that that's going to take half an axe off for me because it seems a little careless. I feel like if you're putting out a book, editing is just as important as actually producing. For me, if it's not written well, then it detracts very heavily from the seriousness of the content. Like cracking with power, that's obviously a typo. I mean, you can say cracking with power, but we all know he's crackling with power because power is often represented as electricity, and that's what it does, it crackles. Another typo is a mastery of all the magic that ever existed. Pretty sure that's ever existed. And that's just in 2 pages. So, there you go. There he is in all of his magical glory, Nazaroth the Undying. I guess because of his title, he gained immortality. And right after him is the Molt, which gives the description of his identical twin brothers, which is not so identical after all. It seems that the intelligence of the Molt is just 1 point lower. Not that it matters, they have the exact same bonus. So from that point, it then goes on to the Open Gaming License, or Open Gaming Content. And I think these are characters that were created by Kickstarter backers, because I looked in the actual list and these are names that were on the gigantic list that I showed at the beginning of the video. For example, the first one is Curdlemuck the Intelligent. This is an extremely intelligent goblin who has blue-gray skin and a keen mind. And while more often than not, an intelligent goblin is shunned from her community, she thrived and took charge. But goblins are stupid, so it doesn't surprise me either way. Goblins, they follow what they can. If there's an intelligent goblin that's kind of got the lead on things, they gonna follow her. So there's a few of them that they've got monsters that you can use, and I think that they can actually, they don't have a plan per se, but these are, just little tidbit characters that you could add into your game. Some of them have backstory, some of them don't, which is nice. Then it goes to minion tactics. This is how to play a minion if you've never done so. For example, we'll go back to the orcs because we glanced on them earlier. An orc is minions of powerful spellcasters, orc kings, queens, and lords. So Queen Grisekek has a bunch of orcs at her disposal. The frequency of which you will find them is 1 to 30 and up. The setting is threatening civilized villages, lands, and towns. They have dark vision of 60 feet, medium in build, aka they are 6.5 feet tall, and they have a normal speed of 30 feet. These tidbits of information are true. I mean, they're consistent throughout all of the different creatures. For example, the Manticore is on the other page. These are minions of orc hordes or hobgoblin armies, minions of a wicked master who feeds them well, because Manticores are big and they are hungry. The frequency of which you will find them is 2 to 5, which that's too many. 1 is too many. The places that they are is in grasslands, mountainsides, and hillsides. So they like big wide open areas because they can fly. They have dark vision of 60 feet and a passive perception of 11. They are large at 10 feet long, and their speed is normal at 30 feet and flying at 50, because again, they go fly, they got wings. Then, for these individual characters or minions, they have a paragraph of description, tactics on how to fight, and then tips, which some of them do, some of them don't. But the tip is given to the Dungeon Master or Game Master in order to learn how to properly play this animal. For example, the Orc. If the Orc has advantage in numbers, send wave after wave into melee. In round 1, quickly move to engage PCs and hold other waves of Orcs back until round 2 or later. Orcs may retreat if reduced to 6 hit points or fewer, but stick with the waves of Orc strategy. The Orcs will only retreat using disengage or dash once the majority of them have been reduced to 6 or fewer hit points. So that way you know exactly how an Orc army works. They do the go back and forth like a tidal wave, and make sure that they can both estimate how difficult their enemy is while also reserving their numbers. And if they have more in reserve, they can go fight other battles if they find that what they're fighting now is not worthy of their time. It says, note, hold the additional wave of orcs 90 feet away and in separate smaller groups that can attack PCs from different areas. Because again, they could be all over the place. Orcs are everywhere. Non-combatants solution. If PCs are able to match wits with an orc, which is very likely, orcs are dumb, even a group of orcs, they may be convincing enough to allow safe passage or gain information in order to avoid physical contact. I'm gonna double check with the intelligence of an orc in this book. They do not describe it. Okay, sometimes they have the minions on the same page and sometimes they do not. Good to know. So for orcs, if you want orc details, you gotta have a monster manual in addition to this book, which is fine. You probably have books already before you get this book. This is kind of an addition to your library more than it is the beginning of your library. And that's fine. Then it has Orc War Chief, Orc Battle Cleric, and an Elite Orc. So there are also different types of orcs in the army that you have to invest in. So that's cool. There's a lot of different minion tactics, so you know how to do basically like the most basic simple of enemies. They got kobolds, hobgoblins, hellhounds, gargoyles, ghouls, golems, goblins, elementals, drow, dire wolves, bugbears, and cyclopses, durgar, you know, all sorts of things that you can find in an average campaign. Then it goes on to monsters, which may not be in your monster manual. We'll just take one at random. I'm gonna do a hag spawn. Green hags are notorious and delight to take the corrupting the joyful and youthful inhabitants around them. Their favorite nasty trick is to lure children into the dark and dangerous woods with the trails of tempting sweets. Does that sound familiar? It sure do. Many unspeakable fates await the unfortunate children that fall for this ruse, but the rare few are saved by the hag for a twisted ritual. The captive children are fed countless sweets as the hag slowly works a powerful curse. They then transform into dutiful servants that she can return to the world to help her with her nefarious will. So these are little sweet clones, basically, who serve the hag as mindless or will-less slaves. And they're just children, but they are small fae now, and they are neutral evil, and they are dastardly in nature. Knowing my characters, I'd probably want to save all the little hag spawns because they didn't choose that life. But anyway, though they have different creatures like that, only a few. They've only got like 3 pages or 4 pages of monsters. Because this book is not very big, it's got a very limited supply of things that you can use. Then it has NPCs that you can add into your game, like Jilla Thistlebriar, Finton Greycastle, Danik Grimjaw Ironspaw. I'm gonna read for Finton. He is a thin, disheveled, and bedecked with variety of scavenged and piece metal equipment. A human barely in adulthood, Finton looks much older as a result of countless failed attempts at launching his adventuring career. Oh, Finton. Psst, you looking for information, right? I know who it is and I know where to find him. I don't know what accent that is, but I'm going with it. See, I was working for them until I found out what they were doing. I guess it's Irish? Finton seldom waits for opportunity to find them. When new adventurers come to town, he makes sure to solicit their attention. Ah, he's the annoying NPC. He doesn't always truthfully know what's happening. Odds are good that whatever he's been doing has been part of a nefarious plot unfolding behind his back. At least, that's what he tries to convince others. I would love to help you out. You seem incredibly capable. I could learn a lot from you. You find treasure though, right? I think I ought to keep a share for all my hard work. Oh, Finton. He seems like a NPC that I just want to pat on the head and send him on his way. That's just one of the, it seems like they only have 3 NPCs that you can add into your game, which is not bad. That's a good selection. And then the very last page is a small selection of magical items that you could include in your campaign, including the Canister of the Captive Mind, Doppelganger's Cowl, and the Lash of the Master. The Lash of the Master is a whip. It is uncommon, which requires attunement. And when you hit a creature with this magic weapon, the target must exceed a DC of 14 Wisdom saving throw or use their reaction to attack an adjacent creature of your choice. So, that's it. That's the whole entire book. It's short and sweet. I feel like this book could have been given a little more love and attention for how many backers that it had. All of the artwork is freaking glorious and I love it so much. But it feels like it's resting on the artwork in order to carry the rest of the book. Which is not a bad thing because artwork is, I mean, it's descriptive just as much as the actual words. But at the same time, well, I mean, each of the individual characters are given their due. Like, all of them are described with beautiful detail without overdoing it and making the book clogged. On the other hand, I feel like there could have been, you know, even more. There could have been more monsters, more villains, definitely more like minion tactics in the back, or more monsters, because I'm sure everybody's got their own handful of monsters that they have from their own individual games, and I'd be cool to see some of the other monsters that other people have come up with. And definitely more NPCs and magical items, because this is kind of it's a supplemental. It's for helping in new DMs and GMs come up with stories that can really affect your players in the long run. So having more NPCs and magical items and all of the other sorts of things, it would help. I think it would only help at this point. So that being said, I really enjoy this book and I recommend it for the individual GM or DM. Here at the Dwarven Tavern, we like to say DM. It's a hard habit to break, and I am saying GM just out of nicety. So because of the typos and the smaller sections that I feel like could have been expanded a lot, unfortunately, that removes an axe for me. So I'm giving the Masters and Minions book a 4 out of 5 axes. That is still a very high rating for me, and I think that you should check it out. Definitely add it to your collection because there's a lot of beautiful artwork, beautiful information, and helpful tips and tricks that you can add into your campaign. I feel like I may delve into this myself. We actually have a new game starting up with some new characters, new players that have never played D&D before, so this actually might be broken out for them. So you can check them out at, I guess, yes, jetpack7.com. Get this book for yourself. It goes for $30, $29.99. They have a wide selection. I've reviewed some other books by them. You can see my other reviews on our website. Of course, check that out. And with that said, I am Lurk with the Dwarven Tavern, wishing for you to want for nothing but adventure, and at first I feared it, then I charged. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.